Ksenia Yudina, welcome to the Dreamers podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So, do you mind sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am a CEO and founder of UNest. UNest is a fintech company that helps parents save and invest for their kids and also for friends and family send gifts into the child's account.
So, can you share maybe like your money story? If you can share like an early memory when it comes to money and how it impacted your life.
Yeah, if you mean from the childhood, my biggest role model was always my dad. And I guess a couple of things that he made sure like I learned about money is the importance of saving very early. So like if you remember like those early money that we get like as kids from the tooth fairy or for some chores that we help parents to do, I never spent the money. I was actually saving all the way until I was 18.
Mm.
And the second lesson I learned from my parents is that the importance of education. They always said, you are our most important investment, and we want to invest in your brains, in your education, and doesn't matter the cost, that will always be a priority.
Mm. And so, before we started recording, you mentioned that you moved to the US when you were 18.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
so did you move here to go to college or?
Yeah, I actually came as a student after my first year at the university just for summer to work at some summer jobs. And then I fell in love with the country. I loved the weather. People were so nice and nothing can beat the weather and also the opportunities. I looked around, I realized that I really can get into a good university here and get education of my dreams and shape my own future without help of my parents. So yeah, I got my undergrad and then MBA and then CFA degree later on. But primary purpose was make a little bit of money as a student, but also yes, get an amazing education.
And so, as an immigrant moving here at 18, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to make it without the help of your parents. I'm assuming that early on, finances, you weren't just rolling on money. So, can you talk to me about some of those earlier experiences and what you did as you were in school to earn money?
Yeah, I actually came with $500 in my pocket, and my very first job was the housekeeper at a hotel, not that luxury type of job. And then later on, when I moved to LA from Florida, I actually was working a couple of jobs at a time. I was working night shifts at Abercrombie and Fitch, and I was working day shifts at some insurance companies. And then maybe like a year in after I immigrated, I got my first real job at a mortgage company, got my real estate license, and then I was on track to build the real career in finance and real estate.
So, what made you want to become a chartered financial analyst?
So when I got into mortgage business, that was back in '07, right before the financial crisis, I realized that I really enjoy the finance part of real estate and fell in love with investments. Just building wealth, asset appreciation. I started learning about equity markets and decided to go into finance. Then, like what happened, I got my undergrad in finance from Cal State Northridge here in LA in '09. And that was a terrible time. As you remember, to get a job in finance, like middle financial crisis, people were losing jobs left and right, real estate depreciated. I had to pivot for a little bit into real estate. I got my real estate broker's license, started trying small company specializing in assets, distressed real estate, helping homeowners relocate, save their credit scores, and so on. But in the meantime, I was very passionate about finance and very passionate about investments. So, as a way to pivot back into this dream career for myself, I decided to get my MBA at UCLA Anderson. And in parallel, I was getting the CFA designation. Because again, like just keeping in mind those lessons, the early lessons from my childhood, that education can open a lot of doors and that investment in education and in your own brain power is extremely important. I think that's what drove me to making those decisions.
And so, what did you do after your MBA?
After MBA, I actually joined Capital Group, which is a large investment management company here in LA. They manage about 2.5 trillion right now. And I got on the private wealth side and I was helping wealthy people, high net worth individuals with their financial planning, with asset allocation, with wealth strategy analysis. And I actually enjoyed that job, that role quite a lot and probably would stay at Capital if I didn't realize that there is a big problem in the United States that requires attention.
Mm. So, can you tell me more about the problem?
Absolutely. So, couple insights that I got at Capital. The first insight was that all of our clients cared deeply about their kids. And I already was a parent at that time, so I could definitely relate that people typically prioritize saving and investing for their kids ahead of their own retirement and ahead of any other priorities in their life. And Capital Group actually is the number one provider in the nation of 529 accounts and UTMA accounts that help parents save and invest for the kids' education and other needs. However, the accounts are very difficult to set up. They typically involve a ton of paperwork. They're very expensive for the consumers. They're very inconvenient. And financial advisors don't enjoy setting up those accounts because of the very small commission. So they typically just advise people to go over the home state or go online and check it out. So in the meantime, when I was at Capital, I started getting a lot of questions from my friends. So a lot of my friends graduated from top schools. Just like myself, they were burdened by student debt. I graduated from UCL Anderson with like over 180,000 in student loans. A lot of my friends got impacted. And just like myself, they became new parents. When they approached me, they asked me for a simple solution to start saving for their children. So, like 10, 15, 20 years from now, their children wouldn't face the same type of problems. And when I provided this solution from Capital Group, 16 pages long financial application, I got a lot of pushback, right? And I was like, what's wrong? Like 30 of my friends that got my application, they didn't do anything for months. So I started digging deeper, trying to understand like what's wrong. And I realized that these existing solutions, they are not really meeting needs of this new generation of parents that require simplicity, convenience, accessibility of financial solutions. And everyone just wants to open the account in 5 minutes and manage it on the go versus dealing with faxing and sending paperwork, snail mail. To be honest, back in 2016, I wasn't even familiar with the term fintech that much. And so I started hearing from my friends that some other companies already existed and people were sending money via Venmo and trading on Robinhood and using Mint and some other fintech solutions that were helping them with other aspects of their lives. However, there was nothing really that existed in the market for parents that focused on the biggest aspiration for parents of how can I provide for my kid? How can I save and invest for the kid's future? So yeah, with that in mind, I decided we need to build something. And I started doing more research where I realized that in the United States, 70% of people don't even know that those accounts exist. Probably 90% of people don't have access to financial advisors that would educate them about those solutions. And typically, people just overwhelmed with complexities. They don't know which investment portfolio to pick. They don't know much about stock market. They're intimidated by investments, but they do have the right intention. They want to do the right thing for the kids in a simple way. So I decided in order to solve this huge problem for the new generation of parents, we need to build something simple, accessible, easy to use, something that where people can manage things on the go, make additional deposits, change plan, and so on. And it needs to be mobile because I realized companies like Robinhood were getting a lot of traction because they were based like as a mobile app.
And so I know more about the problem that UNest is solving, but can you talk more about how using your app makes the process easier or better for parents when it comes to 529s or UTMA accounts?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll tell you like a little bit about product and then maybe how we actually pivoted from 529s into UTMAs and why, because it has an interesting story behind that. But the way UNest helps parents, first of all, it literally takes 5 minutes to set up the account. We just ask a couple questions in the onboarding process. Parents provide their name, address, child's information. We make it very personal and fun. And then they can manage everything on the go. They can get gifts from their friends and family for birthdays, Christmas, like other special occasions for the holidays. They can get rewards, financial rewards from our brand partners. And we have over 150 brand partners on the platform. And those include DoorDash, Disney, Uber Eats, and other famous brands. Every time when our parents shop through those brands, they get rewards right into their child's account. And then we also provide financial literacy piece so parents can actually learn about investing and saving and credit cards and that. And actually this summer, we're also launching another option for parents to buy and hold crypto in the child's account, which again, like there is a lot of demand for this type of solution, and I can tell you why. But even like people who are afraid a little bit of the risk associated with crypto, like volatility, when they think that they buy this asset class for the next 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to hold it for their kids' future, that risk is obviously mitigated and parents feel more comfortable getting into crypto.
So parents
So
are actually interested in investing in crypto for their kids.
yes, absolutely. So the way we found out about that, we sent a survey to our user base last year, and we asked, like, what is it that you would like to see next on your UNest platform? Is it life insurance, credit card, debit card to help you manage the allowances? Is it crypto stocks? Overwhelming number of parents said we would like to see crypto and stocks as the next product. And when we started inviting people to become user testers, we actually had the calendar of our product manager filled in 10 minutes. That's how much demand there is for this type of solution. People are very interested in crypto. Not only interested in crypto as an asset class, but they are curious to pick different coins. So it's not necessarily Bitcoin or Ethereum. People want to learn about different coins and kind of want to place bets because they want to be in control. They want to be in charge of selecting something that can potentially appreciate over the long time horizon and become a meaningful contribution in child's account.
So, what are some of the challenges that parents face when it comes to investing for their kids that you've noticed, besides the fact that sometimes it's just a lot of information to process?
Yeah, a lot of information to process, I would say, is the main challenge. Parents are typically very confused in terms of the right type of account to use. How savings account different from 529? What are the limitations? What are the tax advantages? Those are pretty complex account types, right? And parents may not realize that one account may be less suitable for them than another account. Some people think that saving money in a bank account can be a viable option, but they forget about inflation and how that can eat into the purchasing power over time. So I would say just like educational component and also like understanding investments, like what's ETF. I would argue that more people know about crypto right now or more intrigued about crypto compared to traditional, well diversified investing like ETF or mutual fund.
That's true. And so, when it comes to investing, I know you said you moved away, or UNest moved away from 529, which are traditional college, accounts that parents use for college saving or education, right? Into more towards UTMA. So, can you talk to us more about the move and what I think most parents probably don't even know what UTMAs are. So, if you can talk
Yes.
more about that.
Yes, absolutely. So when I left Capital Group, I actually was the biggest fan of 529 accounts. Because of great tax advantages, I thought like, look, it's investment account, people get a great tax shelter because it's completely tax free. But the one limitation is that you absolutely have to spend it on educational expenses, on college or books, housing related to college, and so on. So when we started the product, the mission was to simplify 529 account. What we realized in the middle of pandemic is that actually for our parents that represent UNest, user-based UNest community, 529s is not the best solution for a couple of reasons. First, some parents not necessarily confident that they will need money for college or their kids will go to college and they want the flexibility. So what happens with 529, if you do not end up spending it for educational needs, you lose all tax advantages and the gains are getting penalty of 10% because government is trying to incentivize people to save specifically for that one goal for education. So if parents are not confident, it doesn't suit their needs. The second thing is that parents have different priorities for their kids. Some parents basically said, I just want to save for my kid's first car. And then we realized, well, the mission of the company is not to simplify 529s. The mission of the company is actually help parents save and invest for the kids' brighter future. And that can mean different things for different parents. And then when we started making that analysis and understanding what could be that alternative to 529s that would meet the needs of our community of parents better, we identified UTMA or Atma Agma, as some people know it, as a more viable option. It's also an investment account, but it's more flexible. You don't have to spend it on educational expenses. You just have to spend it for the benefit of the child. It has amazing tax advantages as well, especially if you're not contributing too much during the 15-year period. And it has flexibility in terms of the assets that you can invest in. So, for example, crypto that I mentioned, or some alternative investments or individual stocks that are not traditionally available in 529s actually can be invested in UTMA account.
So before we started recording, you mentioned that you have 3 kids. So how are you as a parent investing for your kids?
So I do both. I have 529 accounts and I have UTMA accounts through UNest, and I get gifts from my friends and family through the app. So the interesting thing about 529s compared to UTMAs is that 529s are definitely designed for wealthier people that can max out their accounts that are looking for the tax shelter. UTMAs are designed for everyone else, for like 95% of parents. And another cool thing is that parents are actually not limited to one versus another as long as they're not contributing outside of the limit, which is typically 15,000 per parent or 30,000 per household. So I take advantage of both.
And so you left the corporate world to launch UNest, a fintech startup. And I've read so many different articles about the challenges that women face when it comes to raising capital. I think the percentage is less than 2% of capital actually goes to women. And so I'm curious to hear about how the experience of raising, I believe you've raised $40 million for UNest so far.
38.
38, yes. So how has the experience been for you?
I would say the experience is not easy for any first time entrepreneur. And I was a first time entrepreneur and I was a solo founder. And some of the challenges probably just applicable to the fact that that was my first startup. And some of the challenges maybe were correlated to the fact that I was a woman in this male dominated industry of fintech. But I would also say that every time it gets easier and easier. When you build the strong team and you build traction and you attract very strong investors, the next round already has some validation. And the Series A and Series B much, much easier than my first round. During the first round of funding, I would say it took me about 6 months and probably at least 100 meetings with investors to get the round done. So it definitely, it's a lot of grind and hustling and going around the country and talking to people. But in my mind, I would say success consists of three main factors. It's education, hard work, and adversity. If you don't face adversity, like you rarely come to success. And when money come easy, sometimes they also go as easy, right? You don't value that experience if you get investment from investors in an easy way. So despite any challenges, I would say I'm still like very grateful for the experience that I had during my first fundraising round.
And so this show is called the Dreamers Podcast. And hearing your story, how you moved here at 18 with $500 and now starting this fintech that is helping parents build wealth for their families. I mean, looking back, did you think that that's what the journey was going to look like?
Oh, of course not. Who would have known? uh, I couldn't predict this even like 4 years ago. It was interesting that when I got into UCLA to get my MBA, I was actually exposed to a lot of different areas and a lot of different people. But I really thought that I will just get education in finance and investments and I will build a very successful career in the corporate world. That was my aspiration. My path to entrepreneurship was very different and non-traditional compared to a lot of people, but I also value the fact that I was able to learn about the industry first and get the main expertise and actually become an expert in my field and have that confidence that I'm the right person to solve this problem. I think a lot of people are a little delusional about startups and how it works, and they only see the tip of the iceberg, the success story when they feature it in press. They don't understand how much of the hard work and hustle it actually takes. So I definitely was ready to try it out, but based on the research and market opportunity and the confidence that I'm just the right person to solve it.
A few years ago, when you decided to start UNest, you decided to take on a different path or take a chance, right? And the chance that you took happened to be entrepreneurship. But for anyone who might be at a point in their life where they want to take a chance, whether it's entrepreneurship or even like a career pivot, what advice do you have?
Probably a couple of things. First, hedge your risks. You just never know. Entrepreneurship or any type of pivot, it's a risky endeavor. And when I was jumping the ship with Capital Group, it definitely was a very well thought through decision. I was still young. I had savings in my bank. I had some money that I could put to work. And I could afford to live for 12, 18 months without any income because we had two incomes in the household. So I did account for the opportunity that if something doesn't go right, I will recover quickly due to my age, due to the ability to go back into the corporate world. No one can take my education experience and credentials from me. So first advice would be hedge your risks before you jump in the ship and don't pay attention to big success stories. Just remember that 90% of startups don't even make it through the first round of funding. And the second, if you do take the chance and you start something, then be resilient and don't give up. Because if you evaluate it and analyze the opportunity and you are on the journey, just keep hustling, keep talking to people, keep looking for the right partners for you. And that was one of the advices I got early on from one of my business partners, Peter Mansfield, because he said, look, no matter the outcome for your first startup early on, if you quit, you will never find out what's on the other side. So it's never easy. Just keep going.
So I like to end the interview always with a round of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Tell me about a book that changed your perspective on life.
So I really enjoyed from the recent ones. I really enjoyed The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz and From Zero to One by Peter Thiel. They're both about startups, but again, they emphasize that it's never easy and we all have to just adjust quickly and be resilient.
What's one thing about money you wish you could tell your younger self?
Don't buy individual stocks. Diversification is the key.
What's the best investment in yourself you've made so far?
My education, both MBA and CFA, the combination, I would say, outside of the financial aspect, it just trained my brain. It just gave me the opportunity to see the future, to analyze trends in the past, to be able to understand what's going to happen next.
Hmm. Filling the blank in 3 words or less. Money to me is.
Financial freedom,
What do you want your legacy to be?
building the company that would free people up from the student debt.
Hmm. So, Ksenia, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. Can you tell the dreamers where to find you?
Sure. Yes, you can find us on our website, unest.co, unest.co. You can also find us in the App Store, in Google Play, or just connect to me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.